Hey guys, thanks for joining me for the second edition of Have a Beer with Wayne. Only today, 2 beers. Thought we'd talk a little bit about porters and stouts today. It's hard to talk about one without the other. Porters and stouts, there's a lot of overlap. You know, people ask a lot, what's the difference, between the two? Not a lot to go on. One brewer's porter can be another one's stout. Another one can brew up a stout and say, oh, this is our, XYZ stout. And some people might say, kind of like a porter to me. But anyway, porters, some of the history, porters originated in London, England. Particular group of people, porters, they used to carry your bags from, say, the train to the hotel, or around the hotels. They might go out for lunch or on their break and to the local pub, and they wanted something a little bit different. So the beer tenders, they draw them up kind of the suicide. They'd take a little bit of English dark ale and mix it with a lighter ale, and so it's kind of a dark brown beer, and they'd call it a porter for the group of people. Stouts, on the other hand, they're a little more upstate Ireland area. Dublin, Guinness being one of the most famous of stouts. They're Irish dry stout. There's typically, when it comes to stouts, you have some different styles. You got your sweet stout, your dry stout, your oatmeal stout, imperial stout. The traditional classic Irish dry type stout, I'd say it's sort of a Guinness type beer. It's really pretty light. There's people that will come in and say, well, why don't we have that dark heavy beer? And I'm thinking, well, Guinness Stout is one of the lightest beers out there. It comes in at like 4.5% or 4.2% ABV, 150 calories a glass. It falls right in there into that B light or C light kind of beer that people drink. You have your sweet stouts. They're made with a lactose sugar, which is a milk sugar. Legend has it they made those up for the invalids, people that were sick and weak. They could get some nutrition out of their beer. The alcohol was probably helping with some of their aches and pains. The sweetness and the sugar, carbohydrates, give them some calorie input. When it comes to beer and food, you have to make your choices. Food, there's absolutely zero beer value. Beer, there is a certain amount of food value. So you make your choice. You got the oatmeal stouts. Oatmeal stouts, like the name implies, has a good portion of oatmeal to it. That gives it some residual sweetness, creaminess. The oatmeal gives it some body. Up the high end there, you got your imperial stouts, your Russian imperial stouts. The name kind of throws people off. They're not made in Russia. But 300-400 years ago, the Russian imperial family, they liked those heavy English beers. And so they would import them to Russia. So the English brewers would make these stouts that were 10-12%, to make the voyage around through the Baltic Sea to get it up there. Myself, not really a big porter fan. Porters they're a nice drinking beer. They're light body. To medium body. They're easy drinkers, not too hoppy or bitter. They're just, you know, a little bit darker of a brown beer. Our porter is our Dark Knight. Dark Knight came about back when we were brewing at our farm, formulating recipes and making beer up. But the Dark Knight, you have Kathy to thank for that. When we were brewing out there, she was really involved with the process, and it was her job to measure and weigh out the grain and grind it and get it ready. And we were making a brown ale one day. She got it all together, and as we were pouring it into the mash tun, I was looking at it going, wow, it's pretty dark. You know, I didn't expect it to have that much dark grain to it. You know, how much did you put in? And she goes, 3 pounds. And so I looked at the recipe, and it was like, oh, that's supposed to have been 0.3 pounds. So with 10 times as much dark grain to it, I thought, well, we'll just run with it. So we mashed it up, ran it off into the boil kettle, and it's like, crap, you know, bang, we got a porter now, you know. So we were looking to add to our repertoire anyway. You know, we thought, well, when we open up a pub, we're going to want, you know, half a dozen different styles of beers, you know, light beers, dark beers, hoppy beers, and boom, we got a porter now, and thanks to her, Dark Knight is our #1 selling beer. People drink that 12 months a year. We had it in a restaurant up in Richmond that went real well, but when May came around, they're like, well, you know, we don't want your porter anymore because dark beer doesn't sell in the summertime. And it's kind of like, well, maybe it's because you don't have it. But rest assured, here at the pub, you'll be able to get a dark beer every day. We're open. So the stouts, different kinds of stouts, the sweet stouts, oatmeal stouts, imperial stouts. Well, it seems to be a lot more variety of stouts than there is porters. Like I say, not a lot of difference. The porters, you can kind of still see through them. It's just a nice darker brown ale. Stouts, a little more black, not quite be able to see through there. You got a little creamier head to it there. This one here happens to be on nitrogen. The porter, a little bit more of a real light brown, whiter, creamier head. The nitrogen beers, they're a little bit different animal. Nitrogen making up about 89% of the atmosphere. Our bodies are used to nitrogen. We like nitrogen. I like to breathe anyway. So when we put it in the beer, it comes across nice and creamy. Has that creamy, silky mouthfeel to it. But the beers, they don't like to take that nitrogen very well. So I'm batting about 50% on the nitrogen beers here at the pub. It's a learning curve I'm still trying to work up. The other beers, CO2 infused. CO2 has, you know, it's easier to carbonate, but it has just a little bit more of a bite to it, you know, when it's on your tongue. Anyway, we did get a medal for our porter. A few years ago, I entered it in the U.S. Beer Open. So, you know, there are some people that, you know, drink a lot of beers and rate them and know something about beer. They thought it was pretty decent enough to give us a bronze medal, which, hey, bronze, brown, porter, you know, I'm thinking, hey, works. Interesting thing about beers is, you know, all the beer styles, they have their own history and story to them. Virtually every beer style was kind of invented for various reasons. Areas of the regional, around the world, areas, fermentation procedures, but that's what makes craft beer so interesting. What we call craft beer nowadays, 100 years ago was just beer. The beer styles were out there. Various regions of the world had their own styles. You'd go into a pub or a bar, Germany or England or wherever, and they would have their style of beer. A lot of those countries, that's the way it was. This bar makes their own beer, that bar makes their own beer. If you want a particular style or kind of beer, you had to go there for it. And that's what made it unique and interesting. Nowadays, this craft beer movement, everybody thinks it's so new, refreshing, and unique. And it's like, well, it's, none of the above. It's been going on for hundreds of years. So it's nice that there's a resurgence of it, and that's all part of it. You go out to a brewery or to a brewery, and you try their beers. I say once again, one brewer's porter, another one could call it a stout. So there's a lot of crossover variety to it. Here at the pub, we usually have Dark Night on probably 50% of the time. We alternate it with some different stouts and some different porters. We do a vanilla porter usually in June for Jennifer's birthday. That's one of her favorite kinds of beers, is a vanilla porter. So I usually make that up for that time in June. We do some coffee porters, coffee stouts, some cherry porters. We just have to come in and check things out. So what's the difference between porter and stout? Hey, porter, it comes in a chocolate brown shirt, and our stout, it's kind of a gray shirt. What I tell you here on these little video clips, I don't profuse to be an expert, so if you get on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and there's a beer question, and you answer it based on information you've gleaned from here, realize you got that from Facebook. So if you win, hey, kudos to you. Maybe come in and buy a shirt. If it's the wrong answer, you don't come looking for me, when the sun goes down. But in the meantime, if there's something you'd like to, if you have questions or comments, please send me a message. If there's something you're interested in particular, maybe you can send in a suggestion, and I can do a little research or pair that up with maybe a style of beer we have here at the pub. As many of you know, our beers change up here pretty fast. We make a big variety of beer. I think we've made well over 150 different beers since we've been open. Some of them are very, are similar, but stuff changes all the time. And like I say, if you want our beer, you come here for it. Cheers.